So I decided to check out this new GameStop retro store. So what they're ending up doing right now is that they are essentially just a regular GameStop stores, taking them, adding a section of quote unquote retro games, which also includes stuff like Wii U, Vita, 3DS. So not exactly what I would consider retro, but they go back to NES. There's some Genesis games, Super Nintendo. So a little bit of everything here. Not every store carries the older games, but they like designate certain stores to retro. There's only like one within my like 30-mile radius. So hit up this store, see what was going on. It's better than I expected. So let's take a look at the footage I took there to kind of get an idea of what we're working with here. So we got a lot of Wii games, and we got Wii U and stuff. So they're. I'm interested to see. We got PS2, PS3. That kind of seventh gen stuff is what seems to be most prominent. A lot of 360. That's probably because they still had that stuff like in their back stock somewhere. But they got systems here. Prices are a bit high on systems. $70 for a PS1, $80 for a PS2. Actually, those aren't too bad, but some of their handheld prices are a little bit high. Some handheld games. This Cinderella game looked a little bit suspicious. I don't know if that was real. Metroid Fusion's obviously that's not real. So stuff like that kind of suspicious. I'm, not gonna be surprised if GameStop gets fooled with some fakes. But there's some older cartridge games. A lot of loose games, but a lot of games that actually had their cases. So that's cool. Nothing outstanding, but a lot of the games did have their cases, but a lot of missing cases as well, which is just kind of unfortunate. But as far as that goes, we got some Vita stuff down there. No cased Vita stuff, but a lot of cased 3DS and DS stuff. There's some decent games in there as well. Like I spotted they had a copy of Shin Megami Tensei Soul Hackers. Not a game you see very often, so right around retail for that price, but still pretty cool. Otherwise, I'm kind of just looking at their stuff. I wonder, where the Genesis cases are. I wonder if they were traded in like that. I would really hope that they're not, throwing away Genesis cases or boxes for retro games or anything. But kind of looking at that, $100 for a Wii is very steep. $70 for PS1 is pretty steep. And then just seeing some of these, like 3DSs are expensive right now, but it's just kind of, those are pretty high prices. Those are special edition ones too. They had a couple of them there. 360 prices seem to be about normal. I didn't take too much footage of like the accessories, but their accessories seemed pretty normally priced as well. But as you can see, I'm going to guess they had a ton of 360 backstock and PS3 backstock for like in their warehouses that they were able to send out, because that is what's most well stocked here. So, but it's not horrible. It's not bad. I don't. We'll get into kind of my thoughts overall of why they're doing this and what's up. I think why they're doing it's pretty obvious, but it's not, as shockingly bad as I thought it would be. But it's also not great. I'm going to just let the footage loop in the video while I discuss this now that we've kind of seen it. That's it. The rest of the store is a regular GameStop, but you walk into the back and they have this set up. So it's not like they're having specific, like, this is only retro game stuff. There's plenty of everything. But I think what's up with this is just GameStop was frustrating because for years and years and years, they were taking DS games, taking 3DS games and saying, we don't have space for these cases. We don't have space for whatever's in here. We're going to just throw these away. And we're just going to have the cartridge, which kind of ruined collecting for DS and to a lesser extent 3DS, but still for 3DS, because thousands and thousands of cases and manuals were just thrown in the garbage. And I used to dumpster dive about 10 years ago at GameStop. And it was, I was getting Pokemon cases out of there. I was getting first-party Nintendo cases out of there. I actually had a whole stack of Pokemon cases that I had. And I was like, I'm just going to sell these case and manual. And I made a couple $100 off of that, just case and manuals for stuff like Soul Silver, Black and White 2, stuff like that. So, that's frustrating because it looks like, they obviously don't know what's important to a retro gaming market, that complete in box experience. And that's, I think, what's frustrating. because now that they're saying, oh, we're going to really, take in a ton of retro games. We're going to take all this stuff in. We're going to actually buy this stuff. For years and years and years, we're turning away anyone who's going to try to trade this stuff in. And now we really want this stuff. We could have been doing this, during the COVID boom of retro collecting, during 2021, where like prices were skyrocketing, 2020. We could have been doing this then and capitalized, but no, we needed to use our space wisely for Naruto socks and Sheldon Cooper Funko Pops. So that's one of those things where I'm just like, I don't really get it. Like, I feel like this is a day late and a dollar short type situation where it's like, yeah, you really could have done a lot better had you done this forever ago and not tried to sell NFTs or get into random markets that don't make any sense. Like, if they could have just never stopped selling this stuff. So I from that perspective, I find it very fascinating. So they tried this before. They maybe 2016, 2017, when I would say there was a big retro game collecting boom, like the first real huge boom. They tried doing retro stuff, and it was kind of a disaster. They were not training anybody. People really didn't know what was what. And to my knowledge, I think a lot of retro games ended up being thrown away or, destroyed or hopefully, just stolen from the back of the stores. Because they only sold this stuff online. I don't think they really, anyone really cared. People were buying stuff and, people were getting a copy of Conker's Bad Fur Day and a red cartridge. A lot of people were buying Chrono Trigger and putting it in, and it was Madden, stuff like that. So they didn't know what they were doing then. It seems like they're a little bit better trained now, although you still see stuff like that, fake Metroid Fusion. There was a Mario and Luigi that I think might be in the footage, might not, that the label was a little bit suspicious in person. I don't know if it comes across. So that's another thing where I kind of look at it and it's like, okay. And I get why they're doing this, because modern games are moving away from physical media. I think that's kind of just a fact. There's no physical, presence pretty much on Xbox. Like, there's no real physical market on Xbox Series. And I know people say, oh, I like Xbox Series X and I buy physical games. But Microsoft with Game Pass and everything doesn't really incentivize that stuff. And then you get stuff like Halo Infinite, where it's just the disc has no game on it, or the newest Call of Duty where the disc just has an install pretty much. So there's not much of a physical market for some of the modern consoles. There is for Switch, obviously, but when the GameStop was going from PS3, 360, and Wii, and DS and PSP and everything, and had this huge market for physical used games, going from that to, the very shrunken market. And let's be honest, the people who are still buying physical games are probably collectors who aren't selling their physical games off. So I understand why they're doing this. They're going back to the well. This is popular. This is what people are looking for, older games. And I think it's a smart idea. I just hope that they do it well. I hope they follow through with it. I hope we're not seeing stuff, thrown out. I hope we're not seeing cases and boxes or whatever trying to save space. And I think they're smarter than that. But still, I just hope we're at that place where they know what's up. And I'm interested to see, too, because GameStop, I always say that their trade credit, it's a bit of a meme, but if you find the stuff that they pay decently for, and it's usually the stuff they overprice for, you can do well. And I buy a lot of my new games physically by garage sale finds, getting random games that I know that they take for decent money and trading them off there. And it's interesting because GameStop has always had their trade credits visible online. You can look it up. But some of the stuff that I'm seeing in the store, I think they're just taking, and I don't know what their, protocol for taking that stuff in and paying for that stuff is, but some of the stuff they're just taking in, like I imagine that Cinderella game on Game Boy Advance is not in there. Some of these Wii games that you see, I would imagine are not in there. So I'm wondering, if you bring in a stack of games, like, what do they pay? Are they paying 10 cents if you bring in a copy of, I don't know. I'm looking right now, the video's looping for me at least, and I'm seeing the Wii games. If you bring in a copy of Nick Fit, do they give you just 10 cents or the price is right? Like, do they take that? And what's up with that? So that's interesting. Obviously, the more popular games that they're going to take those, and obviously they're going to, give you an actual credit. But for this random stuff that they're taking for Cinderella on the Game Boy Advance or, whatever, what is their trade credit for it? But it'll be interesting to see how this goes. Obviously, GameStop's not in a great place. I really feel like if it weren't for the GameStop memery and the GameStop stock, debacle, I really feel like they would probably not be around anymore. And I think we're starting to see GameStop looking around and thinking like, okay, what can we do? People are not, buying dumb junk trinkets with the, the economy where it is. People would rather spend their money on a game that they can get several hours of enjoyment out of and not, Naruto socks and Sheldon Cooper Funko Pop. So we'll see how they go. I just feel like this was too late. I feel like they pivoted into the wrong section. And now they're trying to pivot back, and we'll see how it goes. I bought a game from the GameStop retro. I bought Assassin's Creed 3 on Wii U, which is one I didn't have for my Wii U collection. I'm trying to go for the full set. It was, I think, $6.99. And I had a $5 off GameStop Pro. So this is interesting just in the fact of the GameStop Pro gives you $5 a month. I use it because I trade in a lot of garage sale junk to GameStop that I can't trade in anywhere else. And it's you get that $5 a month, you can maybe buy a couple cool things and get some discounts and stuff. So I'm not against it. I mean, everything was good with that copy I got, but I wonder how much of the stuff, I did at another GameStop that sold older games sometime last year. I bought a 360 game that was a good deal. And when they gave me the disc was like completely scratched up and destroyed. So that happened, I think, like last November before they really went in on the GameStop retro. But they were starting to have retro games in store. I bought a 360 game. The disc was like scratched up beyond belief, and I went back into the store and returned it. And the guy actually told me like, "Hey, this is actually this clears our quality control, so this you'll have no problem with this." And I'm like, I'm just going to tell you right now, this disc's not going to work. I just would like to return it. So it might vary from store to store. You might have a good staff. Like I think the staff at this store is pretty good. So you might have a good staff that knows what they're doing and is competent. And you might have a staff who, is going to sell you a 360 game that looks like it was put into a paper shredder. So we'll have to see. But my overall verdict on GameStop Retro is that it's better than expected, which isn't saying much, but it's better than expected. It's not horrendous beyond belief. Their selection's pretty large for the amount of space that they have, and their prices are not too bad. And I'm seeing some interesting things, especially with the older retro games, where a lot of their games are priced like around the disc only price for everything. So if you can find it, complete, they give the same amount disc only as they do complete and trade. So their prices are also the same disc only, complete, and trade. So, for example, I saw, I think on Reddit, someone got a copy of Clock Tower on PlayStation 1, which is around a $200 game, and they had it for $99.99, GameStop themselves. And then if you have the Pro, you get like $5 off. So, like a $10, or it's a 5% discount with Pro. So you get like $5 off there. You might have a coupon. So you can get some deals, it looks like. Whether or not you trust it, I mean, you can return it. Their return policy is good, but I mean, it's potential, but it's another interesting factor of it as well. But my biggest tip for everyone is that if you do garage sale stuff like me and you get a lot of junk like me, they trade, once again, trade is the same as loose as it is complete. So I get a lot of disc only stuff I can't really do much with that's not too valuable, and that's where it goes to GameStop. So that's my little tip for you. But overall, GameStop Retro, better than I expected, not too bad. Kind of interesting. We'll have to see how things end up. But other than that, I'd like to know what you guys think. Have you been to one of these GameStop Retro stores? Have you bought anything? How was your experience? I'd like to know what you guys think of this in the comments below. Make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're not already subscribed, and until next time, I'd like to thank you for watching.